Hey guys, YJO Black Mage here. A lot of people talk about what their opinions of the best decks that are currently in the game right now, what they think is the best, and this is a list completely drafted from my opinions on the current meta, on the top 10 best decks of the current format. As you know, the format is very diverse, as we've seen in YCS results. So, in my belief, all of the decks displayed in this top 10, and even decks that are outside of this top 10, are fairly competitive in the current meta game. So we'll go down from number 10 to number 1 as usual for a top 10 list. For number 10, we have Hero Beat. Now, this deck was hugely hyped before the next format because the deck barely got hit and just uses a Skill Drain and Hero Blast, it's Gemini Spark, then you can Miracle Fusion into the Shining. The deck works very well. You almost always go into Stratos at first turn, add Alias. You use your Alias and Gemini Sparks to bait out your opponent's resources, and then you activate Miracle Fusion when you've exhausted your opponent to game them. This has been a strategy that has been seen for years and years. This is not anything new. Now, not many people have been playing the deck because the deck is threatened by the deck gets murked by Thunder King. People use Snowman Eater against it. Soul Taker murders the Shining. People are using Compulsus format. People are just using a bunch of cards that get rid of the Shining. And it just really hurts the deck. So, on to number 9, which is Inzectors. Now, many people thought that Inzectors were dead after the limitation of both Inzector Dragonfly and Inzector Hornet. My belief is that Inzectors are a very, very viable deck still, and Billy Brake has proven this by going all the way to top 8 using Inzectors. The deck is still fairly under the radar, and most of the time the opponent's side deck is not prepared for the Inzector matchup. All of you should know what Inzectors do by now. Dragonfly equips Hornet, pops a back row, special Centipede. But mainly, the deck's just about gaining advantage with Centipede while popping your opponent's cards. Like, the whole deck is revolved around the Centipede, since Dragonfly is limited. And you just use Swords and Call of the Haunted to recycle your materials, and you use cards like Card Trooper and Sangan to get advantage. And I think that it's a very good deck. I mean, I personally picked the deck up. I'll do a deck profile on it once I get one last card that I need for the main deck. But I got all the stuff for fairly cheap, so I was like, why not? I'll build Inzectors. It seems like a fun deck. And I don't think that I'd ever take Inzectors to a regional due to I'm not really that much of a seasoned veteran with the Inzector deck. So I don't think I'd do that well if I took an Inzector to like a regional or something. I take windups to regionals because I've been playing them for over a year. Well, almost a year. Like a year ago, I'd say that I was testing stuff when they revealed it on Shriek for the windup cards that were going to be released in OCG. So I have a lot of experience with windups, which is why I do good with them. I'm a person who needs to practice with the deck a lot in order to get good with it. But yeah, that's Inzectors. And moving on to number 8, we have Dark Worlds. Note that if this was a top 10 list for best Game 1 decks, Dark Worlds would be number 1 because they can give out the whippings Game 1. Excuse me. The reason is because Dark Worlds, I believe, are a fundamentally good deck. They are balanced. They're not really that broken because they can be stopped in so many ways, but Game 1, they're just brutal. You can turbo through your deck using cards such as Brow and Snow to draw and search, respectively. And while you can use it implements a lot of hand control. Using cards like Drag Down to the Grave or maybe Deck Devastation Virus or Mind Crush. It's also known to draw a lot of cards. So basically, Dark World, like many other decks, focus on gaining advantage over your opponent. And the fact that it uses cards like Deck Devastation Virus, Skill Drain, and Dark Smog make it an anti-meta-ish style deck. One of the fastest anti-meta decks I've seen. The reason why Dark Worlds aren't that high up on the list is because, like I said, games 2 and 3, they usually get murdered. Shadow Imprisoning Mirrors, Dimensional Fissure, Macrocosmos, even Soul Drain. People like signing Gemini Imps. And Gemini Imps just murks the deck because you need your discard outlets in order to use the deck, in order for the deck to start its engine going. And if your discard outlets get stopped, then the deck's going to stop functioning as a whole, and you're going to lose because your hands are going to be clogged with Dark World monsters with no ways to get their effects to resolve, which can be quite the pain in the ass. Next, we have Dino Rabbit at number 7. Now, again, people were kind of iffy about Dino Rabbits because Rescue Rabbit and Tour Guide were semi-limited on the previous ban list. The deck has shown that it still has viability, making it as far as the finals in YCS Guatemala, I believe, and then making tops in other events. Now, I've played Dino Rabbits both last format and this format. Last format, they'd have Rescue Rabbits so many times, and they'd follow up with Tour Guide a lot. This format, I played Dino Rabbit in round 1 at the Kissimmee Regional. He never first turned Rescue Rabbited. I didn't know what deck he was playing until like turn 3 of game 1. And basically, the reason why the deck isn't the obvious reason why the deck isn't as good is because of consistency issues. You want to open that Rescue Rabbit so you can go into log in, step 4, and take control of the duel. But now Dino Rabbits take more skill than ever because you have to. Most of the time, you're going to have to play a grind game with your vanilla monsters and your Thunder Kings and whatnot because most of the time, you're not going to open Rescue Rabbit because it's quite difficult to open with Rescue Rabbit. Which is why the deck really hasn't gotten that much credit. But, nonetheless, it is still a playable deck. Lakia and Dolka are still extremely broken cards, and when you do open Rescue Rabbit, you are in a very controlling situation in the duel. Number 6, Six Samurais. Now, Six Samurais were credited with a YCS win at YCS in Indianapolis with a shocking win over Windups in the finals. I mean, this deck has been around for 1.5 years. I mean, it wasn't as broken as back then in the Week of Hell with freaking Triple Gateway. But, I mean, the deck has 1,001 ways to bring out Shien first turn. Like, game 1, I remember I only played one Six Samurai deck in a regional so far. It was in Plantation. Game 1, he had Smoke Signal, and then he went Kageki Kagemusha Shien, standard. And then game 2, he had freaking Kageki, he had like Kageki, Kizan, and Dojo. So he had a Kizan and a Shien on the field. So, yeah. And Shien is still a dick. I mean, you can say that there are a lot of ways to kill Shien, but in reality, Shien backed up by a bunch of back rows is going to scare a lot of people because Shien's still a really good card. 25 beat stick can negate 1 Splur Trap per turn. It's Shien. So now, number 5, we have Chaos Dragons. Another deck that people discredited because of the banning of Future Fusion and the limiting of Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon and the limitation of Chaos Sorcerer. Basically what this deck relies upon, well, a lot of you know, I'm just recapping, I guess, is you utilize Lila and Raikou to get your milling off, and then you bring out your Chaos Dragons, you bring out Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, and you just go nuts on your opponent. It's a very good deck still. You can still spam out monsters like no tomorrow. It has fairly consistent milling engine. Sometimes your hand will get clogged with boss monsters, and that can kind of suck. But overall, the deck is still very good as it can bring out huge beat sticks, which can overwhelm the opponent, while they just simply beat them down with a RDMD Light Pulsar combo. Next up, Agents, number 4. Agents have seen a shocking rise of popularity out of nowhere. I played 2 agent decks out of my 4 games at Plantation before I dropped. Beat 1, lost to 1. I got sacked to the one that I lost to. But usually I beat agents pretty well. But agents have always been the same standard thing. Summon Earth, search Venus, or Venus Gotchi, and then you try baiting out their stuff, bring out Hyperion, pop their back rows, maybe drop a Christie or 2. Well, no, just 1 Christie. Or pitch Heralds and stuff. Herald of Orange Light's a very good hand trap. Nonetheless, the deck is very linear and predictable, and they only have a handful of plays, which makes them very predictable and very easy to counter. But the deck is still good at what it does, which is why it is one of the better decks out there right now. Number 3, Merlantians. Yes, I know I'm cheating, guys, but come on, there's only like 2 weeks left before this deck is illegal. And you know it's going to rape, because it's just so broken. I mean, Sphere, Linde, you always have, unlike Dark Worlds, this deck always seems to have ways to drop their Atlanteans. And Dragoons is a more broken version of Snow, because you can grab Mullen Glacia from your deck, and then deal unholy amounts of damage to your opponent's hand with Mullen Glacia. Deep Sea Diva is so abusable in this deck, and the only thing I really ranted about in this deck is the fact that they have 3 fucking salvages. They have 3 salvages. That's like adding Gugner. That's like, you might as well Monster Reborn Gugner on the fucking field, because that's what's going to happen every time they salvage. They go into Gugner. And it's just, I don't know. I just don't like when I have advantage over the opponent and they salvage. But that's my mini rant. The deck is very, very good. You bet. It's expensive for a reason. The people that have the money to pick up the deck are going to see a lot of success. And you better watch out when you're across the table from this deck, because it can go off. Number 2, Girgias. They finally won a YCS at Providence. This deck is very good. I played with the deck when I saw the Return of the Duelist roster in Japan, and I originally intended to run this deck over windups in the new format because I thought that windups would be unplayable, like a lot of people. But, you know, armors were super and Gigant was a secret, so I was like, fuck that. And I didn't play Girgias, but other people did for me. And it's really good because all you have to do is camp on armor, which has 1900 defense. You search for your accelerators, and it's just so fast. Is you'll search your accelerators, you can go off special Girgian X, and then just search for Machinas or Karakuris, and you can easily OTK with this deck. It's so easy to OTK with Girgias. Girgias are a very solid deck, and they're probably going to be barely touched going into the March 2013 format, and they're going to be a popular deck for a while. And finally, number 1, can I get a drum roll, please? Even though everybody knows what it is. Yes, it's windups. Ever since Order of Chaos, this deck has been a pain in everybody's ass, except mine, because I run it. Now, stupid gate window, sorry. Now, windups, obviously, Magician Shark into Shockmaster, they're by far the fastest deck in the format. They can explode and overwhelm you in 100 different ways. The plays are from the most simple to the most complex, and they can completely annihilate you in one turn, as simple as one turn. When you play against a wind-up duelist, the matches don't tend to last that long, because either you're going to blow them up, or they're going to blow you up. So that's my top 10 for archetypes. Tell me what you guys think. I'm probably going to be making more top 10 videos. Rate the video, comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching.